Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to be ranking the studio albums of one of my all-time favorite bands, grunge legends Alice in Chains. Since 1990, Alice in Chains have released 6 studio albums and a handful of high-profile EPs as well. Now, normally when I do these countdowns, I only count full-length studio albums and not EPs, but I will make the exception here for Jar of Flies and Sap, two incredible acoustic EPs that I think had a massive impact in Alice in Chains' career and are very important in their overall discography. So, again, I don't normally include EPs, but I will make an exception here for Sap and Jar of Flies, but I won't be including the We Die Young EP because it just didn't have the same effect on their careers as Sap and Jar of Flies did. Again, making an exception here, don't usually include EPs, but I will do so for Sap and Jar of Flies. That said, I'm going to kick things off here with my number 8. My least favorite Alice in Chains album has got to be their most recent record, Rainier Fog from 2018, and I don't dislike this album, and I should say in general here, I don't think Alice in Chains have a bad album. Every one of their albums range from good to great, in my opinion, but this one is definitely my least favorite. Something has to come last here, and with Rainier Fog, I just think that it's muddled with some very generic riffing on here, pretty uninspired in my opinion, and some rather boring and uninteresting vocal harmonies as well by Jerry Cantrell and Will DuVall. I do enjoy a majority of the Will DuVall era, and I think he's very underrated as a vocalist and a frontman for Alice in Chains, but this album just doesn't do much for me, in my opinion. But there is some good stuff on here, like the one the title track Rainier Fog, Fly, Maybe, So Far Under, and Never Fade as well. So some good material on here, but all in all, not very memorable in my opinion, and pretty uninspired in the Alice in Chains catalog. So coming in at number 8, my least favorite record in the Alice in Chains discography has got to be their most recent album, Rainier Fog. I thoroughly enjoy every album left here on this list, so you can imagine it was very tough to rank these albums. That said, coming in at number 7 here, I'm going to go with 2013's The Devil Put Dinosaurs here. A pretty underrated and forgotten album in their catalog, in my opinion, but some really great stuff that I enjoy, such as Hollow, Pretty Done, Stone, Voices. The Devil Put Dinosaurs here, the title track is great. Lab Monkey, Breath on a Window has an awesome and really memorable chorus as well. Scalpel, Phantom Limb, and Choke to close things out. So some really awesome tracks on here, in my opinion. There's such a great rawness about the riffing as well by Jerry Cantrell on this album that I really enjoy, and I think the vocal harmonies between Jerry and Will DuVall really did come into their own on this album. A great follow-up to Black Gives Way to Blue from 2009, coming in at number 7 here. I'm going to go with 2013's The Devil Put Dinosaurs here. Next to number 6, I'm going to go with the first of 2 EPs here on this list, and that's going to be Sap from 1992. I think this album will always be in the shadow of Jar of Flies, considering that Jar of Flies is one of the greatest EPs ever made, but Sap is really solid as well, with some great tracks on here like Brother, Got Me Wrong, Right Turn, and Am I Inside. Also featuring some pretty cool collaborations with the likes of Chris Cornell and Wilson and Mark Arm, so pretty cool there. And the only thing I don't like about this record is Love Song, the hidden 5th track, which I've talked about a lot on the channel, but again, even though it's supposed to be a funny track, I just don't kind of get it, and I think it does take me out of what's otherwise a great acoustic EP here. So that said, coming in at number 6, I'm going to go with the very solid and possibly overlooked Sap from 1992. Great EP here, and definitely shows the band's range at the time, coming off their debut Facelift before the release of Dirt, showing a different side of their songwriting process. Moving on now into the top 5, I'm going to go with Black Gives Way to Blue from 2009, the first Alice in Chains record to be released since all the way in 1995 here. The band returning to the studio with Will DuVall on lead vocals, replacing Layne Staley, who had passed away in 2002, and it was the right time for a reunion here, and the band delivered, kicking off the second chapter in their careers here with Will DuVall fronting the group. I think he sounds great on tracks like Last of My Kind, as well as Looking in View, and some other standouts for me on here have got to be All Secrets Known, Check My Brain, Your Decision, When the Sun Rose Again, Lesson Learned, Take Her Out, Private Hell, and then of course the title track, Black Gives Way to Blue, a tribute to Layne Staley, featuring Elton John on the piano. Sounds really cool, fantastic title track, and a great way to close out the album here. Really memorable stuff by Alice in Chains, and an album that silenced a lot of doubters, so weren't sure if the band could continue without Layne Staley, proving that they still had a lot left to deliver here with this fantastic record, this great comeback album in 2009, Black Gives Way to Blue, my number 5 here on the list. Following that up here with my number 4, I'm going to go with Facelift from 1990, their debut studio album. This was the album that introduced the world to Alice in Chains, with great tracks on here like We Die Young, Man in the Box, Sea of Sorrow, Bleed the Freak, I Can't Remember, Love, Hate, Love, and that awesome Layne Staley vocal performance. One of the all-time best metal vocalists, in my opinion, is Layne Staley. And yes, I do consider Alice in Chains to be more of a metal band than a rock band, more on the metal side of grunge than anything else, but I digress. Back to some standout tracks here. It Ain't Like That is awesome, Sunshine, Put You Down, Confusion, and Real Thing to close things out. This album rules here from top to bottom, and like I said, some incredible tracks that really do help to introduce the world to Alice in Chains. I know for me personally, my introduction to the band was through Man in the Box. Awesome song here, and even though it's one of their more commercial tracks, it was a great gateway for me to the rest of their catalog, so a lot of love here for this album, an incredible debut, and in my opinion, one of the best rock and metal debuts of all time. Breaking into the top 3, I'm going to go with Self-Titled from 1995, also known as Tripod here. A personal favorite for me. I know a lot of people wouldn't have this in the top 3, but for me personally, I just love the bleakness and the rawness here on this record. Excellent production. Jerry Cantrell delivers here with some great riffing, and Layne Staley on lead vocals. To be honest, the first time I heard it, I was a little put off by this album because Layne's voice was not nearly as strong as it was on the first 2 Alice in Chains records. Of course, his voice had deteriorated a little bit at this point due to his substance abuse, but I think he still sounds fantastic here, and there are some great tracks such as Grind, Brush Away, Sledge Factory, Heaven Beside You, Head Creeps Again, Shame in You, God Am, So Close, Nothing Song, Frogs, and then Over Now. Great way to close things out, even though it's a little bit too long, but a great album here from top to bottom. Really heavy and bleak, like I said, so I really do enjoy the rawness of the production. Great album here by the band, and again, I know a lot of people wouldn't have it in the top 3, but for me personally, a personal preference of mine here, I gotta put it at number 3. I'm gonna go Self-Titled, otherwise known as Tripod from 1995. The band returning to the studio for the first time since Starr Flies a year earlier, and in between, a lot of rumors had circulated about Layne Staley's condition. Of course, he had done the Mad Season project, and then in between Mad Season and this album here, there have been rumors that Layne had died, things of that nature, and obviously Layne returning to shut everybody up here on this album. Great stuff, and again, it's my number 3 on the list. The remaining top 2 here are 2 of my all-time favorite albums, Alice in Chains or not. So coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with the Jar of Flies EP from 1994. Again, I had to include the EPs here on this list. It wouldn't be a complete list, in my opinion, without them. And Jar of Flies is just perfect from top to bottom, in my opinion. Rotten Apple, Nutshell, I Stay Away, No Excuses, Whale and Wasp is an awesome Jerry Cantrell instrumental. Don't Follow as well, and Swing on This. Swing on This, a little bit different from the other tracks on here, but it doesn't take me out of the album or anything like that. Great work here by the band. Again, it's a perfect record, and they definitely did expand upon what they showed on Sap here with the acoustic sound on Jar of Flies, and in my opinion, again, one of the all-time best EPs and one of my favorite albums, period. So coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with 1994's Jar of Flies. Finally, coming in at number 1, surprise, my favorite Alice in Chains album of all time has got to be Dirt from 1992. Their commercial breakthrough album here, and in my opinion, the greatest grunge album ever made. Not a bad song here on this record with tracks like Them Bones, Damn That River, Rain When I Die, Down in a Hole, Sick Man, Rooster, Junkhead, Dirt, Godsmack, Hate to Feel, Angry Chair, got that killer riff written by Layne Staley, then Wood to close things out. I could listen to this album on repeat all the time and never get tired of it. It's in my opinion, Layne Staley's best vocal performance on a studio album, and the whole band is just firing on all cylinders here, lyrically and musically, so great work here by the band, and again, I think it's a perfect record and the best grunge album of all time. Coming in at number 1 here on the list, I gotta go with 1992's Dirt. So that wraps up my ranking of Alice in Chains studio albums from worst to best, which should be visible right over here. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications to be notified of a new upload, and let me know down in the comments below, did you agree with my list, did you disagree with my list, and what are some of your all-time favorite Alice in Chains records? I'd be very interested in hearing your opinions, so let me know all that good stuff down in the comments below. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.